This is Mike Cagley here with Brad Sturdy and Kedric Prince. We are talking about Orlando Antigua returning to the Fighting Illini basketball staff, one of the top recruiters in the country, a guy that both Brad and Ked have extensive relationships with over the years. Brad, what does this mean for the Illini basketball program?
It's huge. Orlando is probably considered the top assistant coach in the country. I think many people believe that as far as he's got amazing connections. He's a great recruiter. We often talk about playing freshmen and how can't play this freshman or that freshman or whatever. The freshmen that he brings in are guys that can play as freshmen because they're really good and they're the elite guys. But the other thing is the way Underwood wants to do things with the transfer portal and getting old. I also think Orlando has so many connections. I mean, he was the guy who brought in his last year. Remember, he brought in Alfonso Plummer.
Yeah.
The first year of the portal, a guy that before that, people are like, I don't even know who this guy is. And he's an all Big Ten shooter, a huge player for them. So these are the kind of things that Orlando has those connections. He's able to get players. And the other thing is he's also a fantastic big man coach. I think that what you'll see is him probably, I think Jeff will shift more and coach more guards and wings because let's be honest, Jeff wasn't a center when he played in college anyway. He was a 6'5" guard. So yeah, so I think you'll see him shift to be more work on the wings and O can be the big guy coach again, and because that's what he does. And man, it's rare when you lose a guy because I'll tell you this. I think Chester Frazier is one of the bright young assistant coaches in the nation. I think he's going to be a head coach sooner rather than later. He's already doing a great job at West Virginia. But I'm going to tell you what, when you can lose a guy like that and still feel like you are upgrading, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, Mike with Orlando, Brad mentioned the fact that him being a great recruiter, I think he's a great coach. When he was at Illinois, he spent his time, he wasn't a coach to just sit on the bench. He was active, he was saying stuff, he was involved, he was in Coach Underwood's ear. When he went back to Kentucky, he did the same thing. And it's a very good hire. And I know one of the things that a lot of the fans are saying, which is, I think there's some truth to it. If you look at the recruiting staff, entire staff at Illinois, and you had to rank them nationally, they have to be one of the top 5 in the country because Tim Anderson's done a great job of bringing in players. People can say who he's responsible for Terrence Shannon. And I'll leave it at that because we know some of the other ones. But on top of the fact that Orlando's back, when he's a great coach and he's an awesome recruiter, and he's going to bring players. He's going to get players. I talked to Jeremy Fair Sr. He texted me today, and he was like, I'm ready to go, kid. I want to come play right now because that's the kind of impact that he has. And my last comment is he's a great friend. I'll tell you what, when my daughter found out that he was coming back, she was like, Dad, I'm really excited because when she would go to AAU events to me, he would talk to her just like he would talk to me. He's a really good, genuine guy, and which is easy for players to say yes if they'll play for him because it's not fake and it's real. So this is a big hire. There's no basketball recruit coming today, but the way the buzz is around the program, you would think so.
And that is the exciting part of this is when Chester Frazier left for WVU pretty quickly, Sincere Harris and Amani Hansberry end up at West Virginia. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, it does leave the Illini with a need for some talent, particularly a guard/wing and a 5. And boy, if there's anybody in the country who has more contacts than Orlando Antigua and may have the opportunity to bring 2 players or however many, because this guy does have that magnetic personality, but he's got something to sell here in terms of you see what Terrence Shannon and Marcus Domask have done coming out of the portal for the University of Illinois. That would have to be very appealing to players who are looking to play more and also make a name for themselves and maybe have an opportunity at the NBA.
No question. I think that he is a guy who's he sells extremely well, and he's got the name, and people are going to come play with him, for him. And I don't think there's any doubt about that. I don't think it's going to have an issue. I think what you're going to see is Illinois will have some, and I think Brad Underwood, obviously, from the minute Chester Frazier's was leaving, we knew that Orlando Antigua was the guy. right? We knew that. We weren't supposed to say anything, all this stuff. Everybody knew he was the guy. And then I think it was last Monday, it was the day I pretty much knew it was done. And now it's a matter. So as this is going on, this negotiation's been going to Kentucky to work, because I understand it. And it's because there's all a buyout negotiation. There's all this other back stuff that people don't understand. But I think that O is going to immediately bring in guys within the next 2 weeks. I think you're going to see some guys in the next couple weeks who are going to be on campus and be guys that they have visit. And there's other guys that Illinois is in on, but I think he'll be able to bring that guy, because they really need a dynamic playmaker. They need a guy, whether it's a wing, and they need a guy who is a guy who's going to create. I love Kylan Boswell. I think he's a great point guard. He's going to be steady. He's going to handle the ball. He's going to knock down shots. He's going to do some things. He's not a huge creator at this point in his career. Doesn't mean he won't be, but he isn't at this. He hasn't been a creator. They need a guy who can get to the basket, create. Think about, they had Marcus Damascus and Terrence Shannon, two guys who could create, and you need to replace those guys.
I'll tell you this. I saw one of the assistant coaches at a Piggly Wiggly gas station, and one of the things they told me was Coach Underwood had a really nice taste in his mouth going to the final eight, and he wanted more. He is not done, and he liked it. And I think going after a guy like Orlando is great. The one thing I want to mention, Chester Frazier, I think I've seen some things on social media. That's not cool. It's just not. Chester is an Illinois guy. And for people, some people can assume they really know what was going on or why he left or what happened, regardless of whatever the reason is. Chester is a good guy. And I've tweeted this to people, but I want to put this on this podcast. When Chester was at Virginia Tech and Kansas State, he was constantly texting me and asking me about Illinois, because his heart is always with Illinois. And so for the people who are mad because he left, and you had to be living on Mars to think that Censor Harris and Amani Hansberry was not going to follow him there. And so today, when it became official, I don't know why people are surprised or upset about it. That's okay. It's about relationships. It really and truly is. Tim Anderson has unbelievable relationships with people. Orlando has relationships with people, and so does Jeff Alexander. Jeff Alexander, truthfully, he was able to land Jeremiah Fears because he recruited his brother Jeremy Fears Jr. so hard. So it's about relationships, and if it's a fit to go somewhere else, don't complain about it. Because if you have an opportunity to go to work every day and somebody's going to give you something different, a better job, or whatever the reason is, you're not going to turn it down. So I can't fault him for that. He's been a good guy, and he is a good guy. He was great for the program. His heart's in the right place. I think it's unique that a guy leaves a program and comes back, though. I don't think I've seen something like that, and I'm just really curious to see. And I know the college coaches all across the country right now are shaking in their boots because they're thinking, damn, Illinois came back. They're good. Now they bring another coach in. We had to deal with them before. Now we got Orlando back because if you remember, Orlando brought in the All-American Kofi Coburn, and he was responsible for him. And again, he's a really good developmental coach. So now you have him and Tim both doing that.
Yeah, that should be a lot of fun for the Illini. And of course, you have when you have him come back, there's a lot of basketball acumen that he will bring in to the team as well. Not that Chester didn't have that, but again, it just allows you to have somebody with an awful lot of experience. And you look at what he did with Ostershee, that was a heck of a coaching job with him. Of course, the early development with Kofi Coburn. There's an awful lot to sell with Orlando, Antigua. And Brad, I'll put out there just one of the things right before he left to go to Kentucky. Of course, he sat down with you and I for an evening. He didn't have to do that. And we know college coaches have a tremendous amount of people trying to grab at their time, and their job is not a 40-hour-a-week job. And yet he takes the time to sit down and talk about what is going on and what he wants to do. I think he's a guy who's also good for the program behind the scenes, doing some of those PR work that really doesn't really get any credit in the wins and losses. But when he walks away from somebody, the program he's with gets a big shine. And I think that's really important from a standpoint like that. Brad, maybe you could talk a little bit about his ability to build relationships, not just with players, but across the whole gamut of people involved in basketball.
Yeah, I think O's one of those guys. He connects with everybody, and everybody he's one of those guys. After you meet with him, you think he's your best friend, and he's just fantastic that way. And he's really good at doing those things. Now, the other thing I will say, I want to piggyback on what Ked said about Chester. I've been talking to Chester all day today after Sincere and Amani going to West Virginia, and I've been talking to him on things. And here's the thing: Chester wants Illinois to win. He doesn't want Illinois to lose. He wants Illinois to win. So you can say that, but the reality is those were his guys. So he wants Illinois to win. If you ask him right now, he would tell you Orlando's probably a better fit at Illinois than he was, and that he thinks O's great. He thinks O's one of the best assistant coaches in the country. So that just tells you this is the respect. This is the guy who's replacing you, and you still think he's fantastic. So this is what Orlando. This is his reputation. This is what he's able to do. He's really one of those guys, very genuine dude. I remember texting him last summer when I said, "Hey, you finally get to coach Trey Mitchell after 84 years." I said, "The guy's on Social Security, but you finally get to coach him." He said, and he just sent me a few things back for this. It's funny. He's just one of those guys that really makes you feel like that you're special. He makes everybody feel, and that's what you need to do. That's why everybody wants their kids to go play for it.
Yeah, it's about relationships. That's what I mentioned before. I mentioned my daughter. He didn't know her, and he talked to her just like he was talking to me. And it's not fake. Some coaches will talk to you, and we all hear coaches speak, and some coaches don't give you the time of day. I'm just really curious to see what's going to happen with this roster within the next couple of weeks, because Illinois was already awoke. People know who they are. I think it's time, because I'm going to tell you what's unique is I'm really impressed with what Indiana and Michigan are doing in the transfer portal. So it's nice to see that, because the Big Ten is going to have a different look next year. Orlando is going to come in, and he's going to keep Illinois right where they belong and where they have been. So not that Chester didn't. Chester did have a lot of his connections in high school. Orlando has connections everywhere. They're well connected, and people know him and people respect him. So again, it's a great hire. It was one of the worst kept secrets in the world. And kudos to the athletic department for bringing the guy back. And this is one of these times where you don't want to burn a bridge. You burn a bridge and you leave bad and you leave sour, you'll never get to come back, which is one of the reasons why you never, ever want to do that. Because I don't know, I would love to know, and I'm sure I will at some point in time, if Brad reached out to him or he reached out to Coach Underwood. But regardless of the situation, this has created another good buzz and a different look for the program, I think, moving forward.
Perfect. Brad, do you have any wrapping comments here as we close out this Eye on the Illini podcast?
Yeah, I think, just talking about obviously getting Antigua back is huge. Look for Illinois to add multiple guys still in the portal. People are like, "Oh my gosh, they have these guys, lost this guy." They have, but they're going to add at least 2 more pieces, possibly 3, and maybe 4 more guys in the portal. And yes, I know math and sometimes doesn't add up, but just keep it rolling.
And it won't just be Orlando. It will be Tim Anderson as well. So Tim's not done. And when this news came out, I had a guy text me, and as excited as people are with Orlando, people love Tim Anderson. They know he is a huge reason why this team was able to go to a final weight, something they haven't done in over 15, 20 years. I'm just excited to see where it's going to go, to start hearing the names. You'll probably start hearing some tonight if you're a social media person. Hey, Illinois is doing this and that, because Orlando, like I mentioned, I'll tell you right now, he reached out to Jeremiah Fears right away saying, "Hey, big fella, we're going. We're not done. The final weight is not done." And I'm going to tell you, it got the Fears family excited.
Yeah, and I also, you look at this and you think even a friendly competition between Tim and Orlando to see who can one-up each other in recruiting could be very fun for Illini fans as that
I won't mind.
percolates. Yeah, exactly.
As long as they're not from Toledo, Tim's good.
Yeah,
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, that's hey, Superman had kryptonite, right?
Everybody has Toledo. Don't recruit Toledo guards.
Yeah, exactly. Never ever. The other thing that Ked talked about is, of course, on social media, people are hearing stuff. Let me tell you, the other place people are hearing stuff is at IlliniGuys.com on our message boards. That's where Brad and Ked can talk about maybe some of the rumors, some of the innuendos, and start painting a picture of what you might experience and who might be coming and who Orlando can pull into his orbit and potentially become an Illini. $99 is the subscription for a year. It's well worth it. You get coverage all year long, but during Portal Combat, it is just amazing. And of course, if you are strong of stomach, or maybe your vision isn't that good, you can go to IlliniGuys.com channel on YouTube and you can watch us do these podcasts. Now, that's not for the faint of heart. That you have to really be able to build up a little bit to watch the three of us. We're all pretty much combinations of Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise. That's pretty much Will Smith. Yeah, we'll throw Will Smith in there for you, a hairless Will Smith. But we've got our stuff everywhere. Subscribe on our YouTube page. We'd really appreciate that. If you get the podcast, make sure you subscribe so you get it every time we release one, and give us a 5-star review. And the mother of all things is to get that IlliniGuys.com $99 subscription. And that's where you really get all the stuff ahead of time, because IlliniGuys.com subscribers, this wasn't a big deal. They knew it was coming. So with that, we really appreciate everybody taking a few minutes to visit with us, and we'll be back with anything that is newsworthy with a podcast telling you about it. And of course, at IlliniGuys.com, you might hear about it ahead of time.